Hey, what's up, everyone? Uh, there was supposed to be a show, but unfortunately, I'm just gonna have to retire. Liberator 423760 said that I suck and I should quit podcasting. So I've decided that I'm gonna retire as soon as he goes and fucks himself.
Oopsie, the worst rapper alive. Oops. Yeah. Big Mac's back on the mic like oops. Back on the horse, still jumping through hoops. The missing link in pink, I don't lip sync. Just to be clear, choking isn't my kink, but I do it anyway sometimes, I guess. Gotta laugh now, die later in my times of stress. I'm blessed, feeling good, charged up like a Hadouken.
Welcome into the Worst Wrestling Podcast. I am your host with the least, Jack Lucenay. And no, it's not a rerun. This is a retirement show. Today, basically, I don't really got a lot to talk about. So if you guys want to keep this show going in any form or fashion, you're going to have to jump in those comments. Seriously, if we're going to go past even 15, 20 minutes on this one, I'm telling you guys, drop some comments or it'll just be a little quickie and we'll get the hell out of here. We're going to start off, obviously, with the fake retirement. I literally just finished it. I'm running late today. I got a bunch of shit going on. I was all discombobulated. I had a show that I thought was going to be at noon. It turns out I fucking scheduled it at 10. So I'm out getting a haircut. Next thing I know, I'm fucking trying to make it home in time. So I'm just like running super late today. I literally just finished watching SmackDown. So all I have this week is what happened on SmackDown and what happened on Raw. So again, if you guys want to talk about anything else, please just go in the comments, drop some questions, inquiries, fucking comments, thoughts, opinions, perusings, 2 cents, something. Give me something, guys. All right. Fake retirement time. We're going to go right into SmackDown, the main event. AJ Styles comes out. I actually didn't see much of this online, that especially that he brought the OC. I didn't realize the OC was there. All of the clips that I saw really was just like him holding up Cody's hand and then attacking Cody. And obviously the Styles Clash off of the steps, which was a great fucking spot. But as far as I knew, like it was just Styles out there because they had been doing this whole thing where they were kind of keeping the OC face, and they were, they kind of disconnected from AJ Styles. So I'm watching the live show. All of a sudden, I see the OC out there, and I'm like, oh, fuck, okay. So I thought that was a nice touch. You've got the OC, Styles, giving a speech talking about his kids and stuff, about his son's graduation, and he delivers this great line. I feel like this is kind of with Triple H at the helm, and this is how promos should be, as opposed to the script writers having to write out like an entire promo. It feels like they're just giving bullet points. This feels like a line from a writer saying, hey, AJ, we need you to hit this line, fill in the rest as you see fit. You're a professional. That's your job. But we really need you to deliver this line. And the line was, maybe instead of being the phenomenal AJ Styles, I stay home and be a phenomenal father. Ooh, that's crisp. That hits. And I think everyone from a fan perspective is thinking, obviously, like Mark Henry, the Mark Henry fake retirement. Slightly different because they had kind of been telling the story of AJ having to go to the back of the line after the title shot at Backlash where he couldn't seal the deal. And one of the things that I kind of lament, and I'm giving it a little bit of a pass here, I will say, but it still kind of irks me, is when you again create a universe and you have certain rules and parameters within that universe, and then you have characters that act a certain way within that universe, okay? And so what I'm getting at here is when you have a figure or a character like Cody Rhodes, the son of Dusty Rhodes, a wrestling purist and historian. So there is no world that I can conceive of, really, even as a fan, where Cody isn't hyper aware and even vigilant of the Mark Henry fake retirement. Like, he knows that was even, you know what I'm saying? Like, within his generation, this isn't, you know, and so to have kind of no clue and just coming out like a complete fucking yuppie. And this is just something, maybe it's because it irks me, where this is just a side note, but Cody's character sometimes comes across as the type of performative niceness. You know what I mean? The thin veneer of respectability of, as opposed to being nice or good because you know it's right in your heart, you're doing it to appeal to other people's sensibilities and their view of you. You're being nice to be viewed as nice, as opposed to being nice because it's the right thing to do. And there's something that just kind of bothers the fuck out of me about that. I don't know why it irks me so bad, because at the end of the day, they're still being nice. They're technically still doing the nice things, but the intent seems kind of so disingenuous that and dishonesty is something that really just fucking irks me. But like, if you're gonna be dishonest, I prefer, obviously, I think like most people, the upfront version of honesty, just a straight up lie. You know, you told me something because you didn't want to hurt my feelings, or you didn't want to get in trouble, or whatever. That kind of like psychological manipulative behavior of, again, just like, I'm going to do this nice thing for this person so that they think I'm nice. That is fucking gross. I don't know what it is. And there's something very, again, like, he comes off sometimes as very earnest, and then there's other times where I feel like it's not a true sense of earnest behavior. It's really, again, it's that performative, look at me and how humble I am type of character. I think that's why Cody historically, you know, in AEW was successful. And that's kind of what happened in AEW, is those fans really discerned that type of behavior in with a level of scrutiny that just is never going to really happen in WWE, I don't think, unless it just goes on for too long. Because there is a point in WWE where it'll just go for so long. Like, if this drags for a year, people will start to turn on that performative niceness. And it happened a lot sooner in AEW, because I feel like those type of fans, AEW fans in general, I feel like are more diehard wrestling fans to begin with, because the idea of, you know, seeking out a secondary wrestling company when you already have this monopoly, already, it's like you have to enjoy the sport and or theater, athletic theater, of however you want to perceive it, of professional wrestling. Like, you're not going to go watch AEW just for shits and giggles because you're a casual, for the most part. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but like, I would say a large majority of people watching AEW are very specifically wrestling fans, as opposed to like, oh yeah, I'm just turning this on to watch something, right? Like, there are people, and I would say even a lot of people, who do that with WWE. Like, it could just be on in the background, whereas like AEW, definitely more of like, again, a diehard service. So that kind of performative veneer of niceness, this like fucking promo tour that Cody's on since he won the title, there are definitely going to be a large contingent of fans that are not bothered by it. And I think already you're starting to see, though, other pools of fans that are like, hey, this sucks, this is boring. I've seen the complaints from the IWC specifically, which is the internet wrestling community, which is, again, more indicative of what I would call a diehard wrestling fan. So from that kind of contingent, I can already see them starting to turn on Cody. And I think AJ Styles here, this is an interesting way, although I don't exactly like that. To me, there's such a lack of true opponents for the main title that you're already circling back to AJ Styles, but they're telling the story in a very effective fashion. I'm hoping that this is, I guess, gonna be a blow off. I question whether the blow off is gonna be as soon as Clash of the Castle or whether they're gonna actually push this to SummerSlam. And I mean, the thing about that is I would want to see AJ win the title at that point, and the way that you do that, I think, would be to have the whole Uncle Howdy thing finally come to fruition at SummerSlam, and maybe you have that cost Cody the title. It's either that or that's you spin them off right away into they're coming for Cody and the title and to take over WWE, and that's, to me, the best way to do that. But yeah, getting back to the actual events themselves. So, Cody comes down, peacocking, looking like a fucking yuppie. Damn near tears in his eyes for AJ Styles. Called him a big brother of the locker room. And then, AJ starts doing the thing of he's going from rope to rope, putting his arms up. And then Cody kind of starts following, holding his arm up. And then AJ turns around, hits him with that clothesline, starts beating him up a little bit, takes him outside, and boom, hits the Style Clash on the stairs. And again, little detail that I saw on the actual broadcast when I'm watching it that I didn't actually hear about much or see much online. One thing I noticed was the OC again was very involved almost off camera. They caught just enough of it, but the OC was the one holding back the referee. Like, usually you have like the performative nature of WWE, like the referees and the security come flooding in, and you have Magnus PI, fucking, I'm blanking on his name, comes running in behind them. The SmackDown GM comes running in behind to basically be like, oh my God. But yeah, the OC were the ones that were actually like holding them off so that AJ could hit the Styles Clash off the steps. So I just thought that was like an interesting caveat of, it seems like finally, they're going to address this like lingering issue of the OC just floating backstage at fucking catering because they don't want to do heel work with AJ. It seems like we're finally going to get the club, but like the heel version of the club. I don't know if they're going to continue. Maybe they'll continue the strife and, the issue of not wanting to turn heel. Maybe Mi Chin is the catalyst for telling that part of that story, because maybe she could be the last kind of resistant one of the group to wanting to turn heel. And then maybe even have her go on a heel run, because God knows she could use some TV time, and I feel like she could do some awesome heel work, and they could use some heel women on the roster right now. I mean, you have Nia, you have Piper Niven, and Chelsea Green, but Chelsea Green is so fucking good and over that people are literally cheering her. And I'm telling you, when I was at the Bell Center live in Montreal, and maybe Montreal's a little bit of a bizarre land, not the greatest to just go as like a joke, but generally speaking, I feel like Chelsea Green is one of those heels that's like almost too appreciated because she's just so fucking good that she's starting to get over. And I kind of love the dynamic between her and Piper Niven. Just shout out to them. And I love that Piper is getting a title shot at Clash of the Castle. And I love that story that they're telling with Bayley, just as a separate aside. But to wrap everything up, in terms of just like what I thought about it and how I liked it, I mean, it was very obvious, obviously an homage to that Mark Henry segment. But I felt they did it in a different enough way that they'll obviously always be compared as two moments in time, but I think this one is different enough that you will be able to discern them easily. It won't be one of those things of, remember the retirement, the Mark Henry one or the AJ? No, you'll remember this distinctly as the AJ Styles fake retirement on the back of the Mark Henry fake retirement. I even love, even down to the simple details of they went with the powder blue suit instead of, trying to do any kind of instead of kind of going with, and it's actually funny because it is still technically speaking, if you pay real close attention, like if you were really deep diving on it, you could say that the powder blue is the version of a blue suit of like the salmon pink that Mark Henry wore, right? Because that was also like what you would call like a light color, or like a powder color for a suit anyways, right? So that's one indication of a little piece of foreshadowing or an Easter egg. But already, again, differentiating between pink and blue, two very, opposing colors, almost to the point that they're assigned to, boys and girls kind of thing, right? So I think creating a stark contrast in people's minds visually, and then also with the story itself, I like that AJ Styles came out first. They kind of did the thing of he whispers something to Cody in the back, and they almost don't even give the indication right away that Cody's actually going to like come out for the segment. And it's not till AJ calls him out. There's this moment when AJ Styles says, "Cody, I whispered to you in the back that when it was time, I wanted you to come out here, and this is the time. Please come out here." And every synapse in your brain as a fan is screaming like, "Bro, don't do it." It's like the girl in the horror movie going off into the woods by yourself. You're like, "Why are you doing that? What are you doing? You know you're about to get killed." And you got to watch Cody just fucking dipsy doodle his way down the ramp just to know he's going to get his ass kicked. Again, wrestling fans, like smarks, every single synapse in your brain is firing like, "Oh, this man's about to get fucking killed." And then he absolutely does. And again, I like the little details of the OC being there. With Mark Henry kind of focused more on himself and being more towards the end of his career in that respect, whereas AJ Styles was talking a lot about, again, his kids and missing those events. Again, still the idea of being towards the end of your career, but a little bit of a different perspective on it. And then finally, like, we get the attack. And again, I think the Styles clash off the stairs as a singular moment. This wasn't like, oh, he beat the shit out of him and he put him through he hits the Styles clash in the ring, and he puts him through the announce table, and he beats him with like, they've done those kind of ones where it's like almost prolonged to the idea of trying to make it graphic. I like that this was very much a singular moment of like the one Styles clash. There's a little eyeball up here. It says there's 15 of you watching. I super appreciate every single solitary one of you guys out there. If you want to drop some comments, keep this show going maybe 10 minutes longer than I plan to, please feel free to drop some questions. I'm going to talk about the main segment of Raw. The only thing I want to touch on before I do that, and this is, again, just going back to an overarching theme that as a writer, I love when creators create a universe and parameters within that universe, and then you have interactions within that universe that make sense. And I'll give you an example of a perfect way to do that I feel like you are world building. You are giving depth to the characters and the world that you have created, okay? And it's such a simple thing. And I will say that Triple H and the production crew that has taken over since Triple H has mainly been in charge and the exodus of Vince McMahon, this has been so much more present in their programming. It's something that was so distinctly missing and drove me fucking crazy for years, to the point of like I became a casual fan for a while because I couldn't mentally, like, I can make a lot of fucking leaps. It's pro wrestling. I'm not out here judging it like it's fucking Shakespeare, guys. But there are certain leaps in logic you just can't ask me to make because they don't make no fucking sense. And this is the complete opposite of it, okay? And this, I just wanted to talk about this because it was such a small moment on the show that I feel like would be completely overlooked otherwise. But it was so impactful to me in my mind for these characters, okay? Especially because these are two characters that you could argue have stagnated on the program. So, Apollo Crews versus Andrade seems like a throwaway match. And you actually had a story leading into the match, and you had a story leading out of the match. And guess what? You didn't tell that story for just one guy. And even though Apollo Crews took the L, he didn't look like a complete fucking Muppet in doing so. And I'll explain how. So, through one of the through lines of SmackDown was Andrade coming over to SmackDown. He's supposed to be treated like a big deal. He's been very much, it feels like, an afterthought in WWE, if I'm being perfectly honest. So the first thing I like is, he's coming in, and immediately Legado del Fantasma, represented by Angel, is trying to recruit him. And he says, no thanks. And then comes out for his match against Apollo Crews, who has, it's not a promo, but just the camera pans close enough to him in the ring that he can basically still kind of cut a promo. He says, hey, I'm back. I'm on SmackDown. Let's get this dub. And he definitely proceeds to take that L. But again, so this is where it's like normally a guy like Crews, complete disservice in a segment like this, actually doesn't look like a complete Muppet. You protect him two ways in this segment. So the first way is Andrade and Apollo have a great match. It's ultimately interrupted by Angel, who costs Apollo Crews the win. So Andrade picks up a win. Awesome. Okay. You further the story of Angel trying to recruit Andrade into Legado del Fantasma. Perfect. Okay. Here's the part that I just absolutely loved. And it actually happened backstage, almost like it's like I think they went to like commercial break and then they come back. And on Andrade and Angel, basically Angel comes storming into the locker room to Andrade post-match and says, hey, you clowned me in front of my people. What's up with that? And while he's like trying to, go after Andrade, like to be like, hey, what's up with that? Apollo Crews comes in and just busts his ass, just like knocks his ass into the locker room and says, hey, yo, you interrupt my match again. Like, I'm going to beat you down. Don't get in my business. And it's like, yes. Oh my God. Like, that's literally like, yeah, it's so, why wouldn't he do that? Why would he just allow Angel to interrupt his match and cost him a loss and then just like completely disregard, or like, just like, okay, well, now him and Angel are going to have a match next week. Like, that kind of booking drove me crazy. And this is such a simple way of, everybody looked good here. Andrade got a win. Angel got some TV time. Legado del Fantasma has a little story going where they're trying to recruit Andrade. Apollo Crews took a loss because of an interruption from another wrestler and then went and kicked that guy's ass backstage. Everybody got to look good in their own moments here. This is the kind of booking and storytelling that has been so refreshing ever since Triple H took over. And I think that's why so many of a lot of the casual fans I've noticed, because I was one of them, but so many people I've talked to are like, yeah, I didn't watch wrestling for years. And, the stuff with The Rock and all the stuff that happened at WrestleMania, but ultimately it's kept going and people are still tuning in. I think it's a combination of the storytelling and production from, again, Triple H and that crew. And I also think that the international pay-per-views shortened up with the 5 matches have been absolutely fucking stellar. And that's bringing people back too. It's the combination of both. Like, obviously, you had the whole thing with The Rock and WrestleMania, but like since then, we've had a couple of the international shows have been fucking fire, especially Backlash in France. The one Clash in Scotland is going to be fucking nuts. I am so looking forward to that. Like, there are so many reasons now to be invested in the show, even just from a storytelling perspective. And to kind of wrap things up, unless you guys drop some comments, I'm telling you, I'll do another 10 minutes. If you just ask some questions, you got to put them in the comments. But otherwise, we're just going to talk about the Kiss heard around the world, and then we're going to get out of here. And what I'm talking about, of course, is what happened on Monday, going all the way back to Monday. I was about to say Liv Tyler, Jesus Christ. Liv Morgan. It's not Empire Records. It's not Armageddon. No. Liv Morgan defended her title against Becky Lynch in a steel cage match. And we had the moment at the end, which basically cost Becky the title, where Dominic Mysterio comes out, and he's kind of fucking around, farting around the cage, and then you have JD and Finn come down to confront him and be like, hey, what are you doing? And all of a sudden, Braun Strowman comes out because he's been chasing JD all night, and he chases them around the ring, and he ends up smashing Dom into the door of the cage, which ends up smashing into Becky's head. And next thing you know, Liv Morgan escapes, and she is still your Raw Women's Champion. And there's this moment where they're walking up the ramp, and it's funny because, again, I'm in Canada, so, and I wasn't I'll tell you two things. I'm in Canada, and I wasn't watching live. So I saw it on Twitter immediately as it happened, and then when I watched the broadcast the next day during work, which is what I usually do, I'll watch it on Hulu on Tuesday mornings. They showed the kiss. I know that, unfortunately, for our USA fans out there, that you did not get to see it live because they cut the feed right before the big moment. But basically, what happened was Liv Morgan is going up the ramp. Dominic's looking all mad like he fucked up again. But then Liv Morgan plants a big one on him, gives him a kiss. And this is definitely an angle. This is going to be some juicy shit. And I'm telling you guys, when Rhea Ripley comes back, the story that they're going to be able to tell. And Rhea Ripley, traditionally, I haven't always been super enthralled with her face work, but I feel like they're not actually going to tweak much. And this is where, again, the current team that they have in place with the storytelling that they're doing, I don't think, Triple H and that creative staff think that Rhea Ripley has to do anything majorly different to be incredibly over when she comes back. The combination of the time away and the story that's happened since and her presence alone, I think you can bring back the exact same character that left, and absolutely she will be a face. She will be cheered when she comes back. I think you can do an effective face turn without having to have Rhea do the fucking rah heel face promos that like you usually have your baby. I do not want to see Rhea Ripley doing fucking Cody Rhodes style promos of I'm so happy to fight for the crowd, and I don't want to hear any of that shit. When mommy comes back, I just want her to fuck with Liv, fuck with Dom, try and run Judgment Day, maybe just be like, you know what, I don't need those idiots, and just kind of be a true dominator. Who I love, actually, right now, who kind of exudes that confidence. Again, as a babyface without coming off as like the rah-rah type is Jade Cargill, who I view very much as kind of the counterbalance to Rhea Ripley on SmackDown. Like you have Rhea Ripley on Raw, you have Jade Cargill on SmackDown. And as much as I love Bianca Belair, and Bianca Belair is, you know, an extremely strong character and individual, she is more of the rah-rah personality. And the thing with her is it fits, right? There's certain people where it fits, and there's certain people where you can tell it's a little bit of an act. Like they're putting it on a little bit. You know, there's another one like that, Seth Rollins. I love Seth Rollins to death. I hate listening to his I hate listening to his babyface promos. I really just genuinely don't care for this. Like I'm gonna fight every night for the crowd, and that kind of shit just literally doesn't even register with me. And I think that's like the generic old school babyface promos that honestly, for the most part, like that's what turned people on John Cena. That's what made John Cena so polarizing, because he's one of the first characters that I remember where genuinely people were really like, because I think, you know, there was always this kind of old school mentality. I think it was just easier to please people back then. But around the 2000s, and I think it was, shout out to Howard Bender, who is a fantasy football analyst and radio personality who I had on my interview show, actually. But he mentioned during the show, because we were talking about wrestling, he actually said something that was very interesting to me, that the perception and landscape of wrestling really changed with, you know, obviously the rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. And I think we say that a lot of times without actually, you know, really soaking in what that means, right? Because before that, it was Hogan, right? And the rah-rah thing worked. And the whole point of The Rock was that the rah-rah thing for him especially was so bad that they told him, die, Rocky, die. And he had to really turn heel to become face. And with Stone Cold, even though he didn't get that pure hatred treatment, nobody gave a shit about him when he was the ringmaster. But when he came back as Stone Cold Steve Austin, and again, Stone Cold rarely ever said shit like, I'm fighting for the crowd. You ever remember Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out and telling, I'm fighting for the working man? No, he didn't do that shit. He would come out and say, hey, Vince, you're a piece of shit, and I'm a tough son of a bitch. I'm going to kick your ass and drink some beer and fuck you, and hell yeah. Boom. Like, that's how you do cut a fucking face promo nowadays. So, again, this fucking Disney, you know, G-rated gold medal, fucking Olympic style, fucking, again, this performative niceness does not really get across effectively for long periods of time, sustainably, usually as a babyface in this modern age. And that's it for me. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm going to retire for tonight, you guys. Shout out to all 20 of you I can see up here watching. I super appreciate you guys. If you ever want to drop some ideas for the show, interact, just hit me up in the comments. You can hit me up on social media at Jack Lucenay. You can always send emails also. worstsportschannel@gmail.com. Send random emails. I don't care. But hey, until the next time, I will catch all of you guys on the flip side.
My positive contact results in affirmative impact. Never vulgarize on raps. I'm never primitive, but cannibalistic, vicious characteristics, hereditary potency, episodic genes, yo. Aim at the HMCs at extraordinary speed. Seven of me is like slipping in razor blades and grease in your bare feet. I see your fucking colleagues misprise you very much to your dismay. So today, I can say you won't be running away. Hold your tail between your legs. Never to advocate when you
stakes. I'll take a hacksaw to